My uncle fired me from our tech company, but my secret code changed everything. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead as I sat in the sterile conference room of Innovatech Solutions, the company that had been my second home for nearly a decade. The glass walls offered an unobstructed view of the bustling office floor below, engineers typing furiously on their keyboards, designers sketching wireframes, and project managers darting between cubicles with purpose. It was a scene I knew intimately, one I had helped build from the ground up alongside my uncle, Richard Caldwell, who founded the company after inheriting his father's modest IT consultancy. Richard wasn't just my uncle, he was my mentor, my champion, and until recently, my biggest supporter. Growing up, while other kids were playing video games or hanging out at malls, I was tucked away in our basement tinkering with old computers Richard would bring home. He saw something in me, a spark perhaps, that others missed. When I graduated top of my class in computer science, he didn't hesitate to offer me a position at Innovatech, promising to nurture my talent and help me grow within the family business. For years, everything seemed perfect. I worked tirelessly, often staying late into the night, developing innovative solutions that helped propel Innovatech from a small startup to a formidable player in Silicon Valley. My code became the backbone of several successful projects, earning us prestigious clients and industry recognition. Yet, despite my contributions, there was always this nagging feeling, an invisible barrier separating me from true leadership roles. Every time I proposed new ideas during meetings, they were met with polite nods but rarely implemented. Instead, credit frequently went to more senior team members, many of whom lacked technical expertise comparable to mine. Then came the fateful day when everything changed. As I stared across the polished mahogany table at Richard, his expression unreadable behind those familiar wire-rimmed glasses, I felt a chill run down my spine. His words, delivered with clinical precision, cut deeper than any blade. "We need to make some tough decisions about staffing, and unfortunately, your position is no longer sustainable." Just like that, without warning or explanation, I was being dismissed from the very company I'd poured my heart and soul into building. Shock quickly gave way to anger as reality set in. How could he do this? After all we'd achieved together, after all the sacrifices I'd made? The memories flooded back, the sleepless nights debugging critical systems, the weekends spent perfecting algorithms while friends enjoyed social lives, the countless times I put the company's needs above my own personal ambitions. And now, it was over. Just like that. As I gathered my belongings from my office, each item triggering another wave of nostalgia and betrayal, I couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play here. Why now? What had shifted so dramatically that warranted such drastic action against me? These questions swirled in my mind, mixing with raw emotions threatening to overwhelm me completely. With trembling hands, I packed away photos of happier times, awards recognizing my achievements, and notebooks filled with ideas yet unrealized, all remnants of a life suddenly torn apart by someone I trusted implicitly. Walking out of Innovatech for what might be the last time, I realized two things simultaneously. First, that I needed answers, real ones that went beyond corporate jargon and empty excuses. Second, that somewhere deep inside, buried beneath layers of hurt and confusion, lay a resolve stronger than ever before. A resolve not just to survive this setback but to prove, to myself, to Richard, to everyone, that my worth extended far beyond any single job title or company affiliation. That evening, alone in my apartment surrounded by boxes of mementos from my career at Innovatech, I found myself drawn to an old laptop tucked away in a corner. It wasn't anything special, a relic from college days, but it held something precious, my secret project. For months, maybe even years, I had been working on a side project in stolen moments between official assignments. This wasn't just any code, it was my magnum opus, a revolutionary algorithm capable of optimizing data processing speeds exponentially better than anything currently available. I called it Elysium, inspired by ancient myths of paradise, because that's exactly what it promised. A utopia of efficiency and performance. Elysium wasn't just faster, it learned, adapted, and evolved based on user interactions, making it smarter with every operation. But I never shared it with anyone, not even Richard. Partly because I feared rejection or worse, appropriation without acknowledgement. Mostly though, I kept it hidden because it represented something deeply personal, a testament to my capabilities, crafted entirely outside the confines of corporate expectations. With nothing left to lose, I decided to dedicate myself fully to Elysium. Night after night, fueled by caffeine and determination, I refined its architecture, testing boundaries and pushing limits. Each line of code felt like reclaiming a piece of myself, asserting control over a future that suddenly seemed uncertain. The process was cathartic, almost therapeutic, allowing me to channel my anger and disappointment into creation rather than destruction. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, Elysium began taking shape, not just as a theoretical concept but as a tangible product ready for demonstration. During this period, I also started reaching out to former colleagues discreetly, sharing glimpses of what I was building. To my surprise, many expressed genuine interest and support, some even offering to help test prototypes under wraps. Their encouragement bolstered my confidence, reminding me that my value wasn't confined to Innovatech's walls. One particular ally emerged unexpectedly, Sarah Chun, a brilliant data scientist who had recently left Innovatech due to similar frustrations regarding lack of recognition and stifling bureaucracy. Together, we formed an unlikely partnership, combining her analytical prowess with my coding wizardry. Working clandestinely from various coffee shops and co-working spaces around town, we transformed Elysium from a solitary endeavor into a collaborative masterpiece. Our breakthrough came during a late-night debugging session when Sarah suggested integrating machine learning models to enhance predictive analytics within Elysium. Her insight proved pivotal, unlocking new dimensions of functionality that neither of us had initially envisioned. Suddenly, Elysium wasn't merely optimizing processes, it was anticipating them, preemptively addressing potential bottlenecks before they occurred. The implications were staggering, potentially revolutionizing entire industries reliant on efficient data management. However, success brought its own challenges. Word of Elysium's capabilities started spreading through tech circles, attracting attention from venture capitalists eager to invest in our vision. While tempting, these offers raised ethical dilemmas. Did I want to sell out immediately, cashing in on years of hard work, or should I maintain creative control, ensuring Elysium remained true to its original purpose? Moreover, how much did I owe Innovatech, or rather Richard, for providing the initial platform upon which I honed my skills? These questions weighed heavily on my conscience, complicating decisions about Elysium's future trajectory. Meanwhile, whispers reached me about internal turmoil at Innovatech following my departure. Projects once spearheaded by me were faltering, clients expressing dissatisfaction with delayed deliverables and subpar results. Some speculated that firing me had been a grave mistake, though publicly, Richard maintained a stoic facade, attributing setbacks to market fluctuations and increased competition. Despite lingering bitterness towards Richard, part of me still cared about Innovatech's fate. After all, it wasn't just his company, it was ours, built on shared dreams and aspirations. Watching it struggle evoked mixed emotions, vindication tinged with sadness, pride overshadowed by regret. Perhaps, I thought, Elysium could serve as a bridge, a means to reconcile past grievances while charting a new course forward. But reconciliation required courage, vulnerability, and most importantly, clarity about what truly mattered moving forward. As I stood on the precipice of change, armed with a groundbreaking innovation and renewed sense of purpose, I knew one thing for certain: whatever happened next, Elysium would redefine not only my professional landscape but possibly reshape the entire technological ecosystem. Whether triumph or tragedy awaited remained uncertain, but either way, the journey ahead promised to be transformative, for me, for Innovatech, and perhaps for the world at large. The decision to approach Richard with Elysium wasn't made lightly. Every time I considered it, a storm of emotions raged inside me: anger at his betrayal, fear of rejection, and an undeniable sense of obligation to the company we had built together. Yet deep down, I knew that presenting Elysium could be more than just a business move, it could be an opportunity for redemption, for both of us. One crisp autumn morning, I found myself standing outside Innovatech's headquarters once again. The building loomed before me, its glass facade reflecting the pale sunlight like a mirror of my own conflicted thoughts. My heart pounded as I walked through the revolving doors, each step feeling heavier than the last. Security guards nodded in recognition but didn't stop me. After all, they still remembered me as the boss's niece. That title now felt hollow, yet it carried enough weight to grant me access. I bypassed the bustling lobby and headed straight for Richard's office on the top floor. His assistant, Claire, looked up from her desk with wide eyes when she saw me. She hesitated, clearly unsure whether to announce my presence or turn me away. Before she could decide, I gave her a small smile and said softly, "It's okay, Claire. I'll wait." Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as I sat in the sleek waiting area, staring at the framed awards lining the walls, many of which bore my fingerprints, though no one else knew it. Finally, Claire buzzed me in, her voice tinged with nervousness. "Mr. Caldwell will see you now." Richard's office hadn't changed much since my departure. It was still impeccably organized, every item placed with precision. He sat behind his massive mahogany desk, glasses perched low on his nose as he reviewed documents. When he looked up and saw me, his expression shifted from mild surprise to something harder to read: guilt? Regret? Or perhaps just professional detachment. "Emma," he said, his tone measured. "This is unexpected." "I know," I replied, clutching the laptop case containing Elysium tightly against my chest. "But I need to show you something." He gestured for me to sit, leaning back in his chair with an air of cautious curiosity. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us was heavy, laden with unspoken words and unresolved tensions. Then, without preamble, I opened my laptop and began explaining. "This is Elysium," I started, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. "It's an algorithm I've been working on for years, a system capable of optimizing data processing speeds exponentially while learning and adapting in real time. It's not just faster, it's smarter. Smarter than anything currently available." As I demonstrated Elysium's capabilities, Richard's demeanor shifted subtly. At first, skepticism flickered across his face, but as the program ran simulations and displayed results far beyond anything Innovatech had achieved, his eyes widened. By the time I finished, he was leaning forward, elbows resting on his desk, his usual composure cracked. "Where did you come up with this?" he asked, his voice tinged with awe, and maybe a hint of envy. "It's been my side project for years," I admitted. "Something I worked on during late nights and weekends. Something I never shared because," I trailed off, unsure how to articulate the mix of fear and disillusionment that had kept me silent. Richard sighed deeply, removing his glasses and rubbing his temples. "Emma, I owe you an explanation." "You do," I agreed, my voice firm. "Why did you fire me? Was it really about staffing decisions, or was there something else?" He hesitated, then leaned back in his chair, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "It wasn't personal," he began, though the irony of those words wasn't lost on me. "The board has been pressuring me to cut costs and streamline operations. They wanted fresh blood, new leadership. Your name came up, not because of your performance, but because you were family. They thought letting you go would send a message that no one was untouchable." His admission hit me like a punch to the gut. So it hadn't been about my abilities or contributions at all, it had been politics, pure and simple. And yet, hearing him say it aloud stirred a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief that my firing hadn't been entirely justified, and anger that he had let others dictate such a crucial decision. "And what about Elysium?" I pressed. "If you'd known about this, would things have been different?" Richard met my gaze, his expression unreadable. "Yes," he said finally. "Absolutely. This changes everything." For a moment, hope flared within me. Maybe this was the turning point we both needed, the chance to rebuild trust and forge a new path forward. But as Richard continued speaking, doubt crept back in. "We can integrate Elysium into Innovatech's core systems," he proposed. "It'll revolutionize our offerings and put us ahead of the competition. With your permission, of course." "With my permission?" I echoed, raising an eyebrow. "You mean you're offering me a position again?" He nodded slowly. "A senior role. Lead developer, head of innovation, whatever title suits you best. You deserve recognition for this, Emma. And Innovatech needs you." The offer was tempting, almost intoxicating. To return to the company I loved, armed with the validation I had craved for so long, it seemed like a dream come true. But something held me back. Perhaps it was the memory of being cast aside so easily, or maybe it was the realization that Elysium represented more than just a career milestone. It symbolized independence, resilience, and the power to shape my own destiny. "I appreciate the offer," I said carefully, closing my laptop and tucking it under my arm. "But I need time to think. Elysium isn't just a tool, it's part of who I am. And I'm not sure if bringing it here is the right move." Richard frowned, clearly taken aback. "Emma, don't throw away this opportunity. We can make history together." "Maybe," I conceded. "Or maybe Elysium's future lies elsewhere. Either way, I won't rush into a decision." As I stood to leave, Richard called after me. "Whatever you choose, Know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Firing you was the hardest thing I've ever done. I paused at the doorway, glancing over my shoulder. I believe you, I said quietly. But apologies aren't enough. Actions matter more. Walking out of Innovatech that day, I felt a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in months, I wasn't defined by the pain of rejection or the weight of uncertainty. Instead, I carried with me a newfound clarity. Elysium wasn't just a means to prove my worth, it was a catalyst for change, a bridge to possibilities I hadn't yet imagined. Over the following weeks, Sarah and I poured ourselves into refining Elysium further, preparing for the next phase of its journey. Venture capitalists continued reaching out, their offers growing increasingly lucrative. Some promised funding and resources to scale Elysium globally, others envisioned partnerships with tech giants eager to harness its potential. Each proposal came with promises of fame and fortune, but also compromises I wasn't ready to make. Then one evening, as Sarah and I brainstormed marketing strategies over takeout sushi, inspiration struck. What if Elysium didn't belong to any single corporation or investor? What if it became a force for good, a tool accessible to everyone, regardless of wealth or influence? The idea ignited a spark within me, reigniting the passion that had driven me to create Elysium in the first place. We could open source it, I suggested, excitement bubbling in my chest. Release the code publicly, let developers worldwide contribute and improve upon it. Imagine the impact we could have. Sarah's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. Not only would it democratize access to cutting-edge technology, but it would also establish you as a leader in ethical innovation. The plan crystallized quickly. We drafted a manifesto outlining our vision for Elysium, a commitment to transparency, inclusivity, and empowerment through technology. We reached out to influential figures in the tech community, garnering support from advocates of open-source initiatives and social responsibility. Slowly but surely, momentum began building around Elysium, not as a product to be sold, but as a movement to be embraced. Yet, even as excitement mounted, shadows lingered on the horizon. Rumor circulated that Innovatech was scrambling to develop its own version of Elysium, leveraging remnants of my earlier work left behind when I was fired. Whether Richard was involved remained unclear, but the possibility gnawed at me. Had he betrayed me again, using my creation to save the company I once loved? Determined to confront the truth, I arranged a final meeting with Richard, not in his office, but at a quiet cafe near the waterfront. When he arrived, his face was lined with fatigue, his usual confidence replaced by unease. "Emma," he greeted me, sliding into the seat across from mine. "I heard about your plans. Open sourcing Elysium, it's bold." "It's necessary," I corrected him. "Technology should serve humanity, not corporations. And frankly, after everything that's happened, I can't trust Innovatech to honor that principle." Richard winced, guilt flashing across his features. "About that. There are forces at play here bigger than either of us. The board, they've pushed for aggressive measures to replicate Elysium's functionality. I tried to resist, but you couldn't stop them," I finished bitterly. "So you're saying Innovatech is trying to steal my work again?" "No," he protested vehemently. "At least, not intentionally. But yes, they're exploring alternatives based on incomplete fragments of your code. Emma, please understand, I never wanted it to come to this." His words hung in the air, heavy with regret. For a moment, I considered walking away, severing ties completely. But then I remembered why I had started coding in the first place: to solve problems, to build connections, to leave the world better than I found it. Cutting Richard out wouldn't achieve that goal, it would only perpetuate cycles of mistrust and division. "What if we worked together differently this time?" I suggested, surprising even myself. Not as employer and employee, but as equals. Innovatech could champion Elysium's open-source initiative, using its resources to amplify its reach while committing to ethical practices. In return, I'd oversee implementation and ensure transparency. Richard stared at me, stunned. "You'd trust me after everything?" "I'd trust the idea of what Innovatech could become," I clarified. "But only if you're willing to fight for it, to stand against the board and protect Elysium's integrity." For the first time in months, I saw genuine hope in his eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes," he vowed. "For you, for Innovatech, and for the future we can build together." And so a fragile alliance was forged, one built not on blind loyalty or corporate ambition, but on shared values and a commitment to change. As I left the cafe that evening, the sun setting over the water, I felt a profound sense of purpose. Elysium wasn't just changing the technological landscape, it was reshaping relationships, challenging norms, and proving that even in the face of adversity, innovation and integrity could coexist. But challenges lay ahead. The road to implementing Elysium's open-source vision would be fraught with obstacles, from skeptical stakeholders to technical hurdles. And somewhere in the distance, whispers of resistance hinted at battles yet to be fought. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: Elysium had already transformed everything, and its story was only beginning. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity. With Richard's reluctant but determined support, Innovatech officially announced its partnership with me to spearhead Elysium's open-source initiative. The announcement sent shockwaves through the tech industry, sparking debates about corporate ethics, intellectual property, and the role of technology in society. Some hailed it as a groundbreaking move toward democratizing innovation, others dismissed it as naive idealism doomed to fail. For Sarah and me, the challenge was monumental. We spent countless hours drafting agreements, setting up infrastructure for collaborative development, and designing safeguards to prevent misuse of Elysium's code. Every decision felt like walking a tightrope, balancing transparency with security, accessibility with accountability. But the outpouring of support from developers worldwide kept us going. Within days of releasing the initial version of Elysium's codebase, contributions poured in from every corner of the globe. Engineers, students, hobbyists, all united by a shared vision of creating something greater than themselves. Meanwhile, tensions within Innovatech simmered just beneath the surface. The board remained skeptical, their resistance manifesting in subtle ways: delayed approvals, budget constraints, passive-aggressive comments during meetings. Richard bore the brunt of their frustration, his position increasingly precarious. Yet, he stood firm, defending the initiative at every turn. "This isn't just about profits," he declared during one particularly heated session. "It's about legacy. About proving that businesses can lead with integrity." His words resonated deeply with me, even as I watched him struggle under mounting pressure. There were moments when I questioned whether involving Innovatech had been a mistake, whether opening myself up to further betrayal was worth the risk. But then I'd see the impact Elysium was already having: small startups using it to streamline operations, nonprofits leveraging its capabilities to tackle global challenges, educators incorporating it into curricula to inspire the next generation of coders. Each success story reinforced my belief that this path, however difficult, was the right one. One evening, as Sarah and I reviewed feedback from contributors, an email notification popped up on my screen. It was from Dr. Elena Morales, a renowned AI ethicist whose work I had long admired. Her message was brief but electrifying: Elysium has the potential to redefine how we think about technology's role in society. Let's talk. Meeting Dr. Morales proved transformative. Over coffee, she offered invaluable insights into ensuring Elysium's ethical deployment, helping us establish guidelines to prevent exploitation while maximizing positive impact. Under her guidance, we formed an advisory council comprising experts in fields ranging from cybersecurity to human rights, each committed to safeguarding Elysium's mission. As momentum grew, so did scrutiny. Critics emerged, questioning everything from our motives to the practicality of maintaining such a vast open-source project. Some accused Innovatech of greenwashing, claiming the partnership was little more than a PR stunt. Others warned of unintended consequences, pointing to historical examples where well-intentioned technologies had been co-opted for harm. These criticisms weighed heavily on me, forcing me to confront uncomfortable truths. Could we truly control how Elysium would be used? Were we naive to believe in humanity's capacity for good? Late one night, after yet another exhausting day of addressing concerns and troubleshooting issues, I found myself staring at my reflection in the darkened window of my apartment. The face looking back at me was tired but resolute. For all the doubts and fears, one thing remained clear: doing nothing was not an option. Determined to address these challenges head-on, I organized a global summit bringing together technologists, policymakers, academics, and activists to discuss Elysium's future. Held virtually to ensure inclusivity, the event drew thousands of participants eager to shape the conversation. Together, we drafted a manifesto outlining principles for responsible innovation, emphasizing collaboration, equity, and sustainability. By the end of the summit, Elysium wasn't just a piece of software, it was a movement, a rallying cry for a better way forward. Back at Innovatech, the tide began to turn. Seeing the tangible benefits of Elysium's adoption, increased efficiency, cost savings, enhanced reputation, the board softened its stance. Projects once deemed too risky or unconventional suddenly gained traction, fueled by the creative energy unleashed by Elysium's open-source model. Employees who had previously felt stifled by rigid hierarchies embraced newfound autonomy, proposing bold ideas that revitalized the company's culture. Richard, too, underwent a transformation. Freed from the constraints of short-term profit targets, he rediscovered the passion that had driven him to start Innovatech in the first place. He became a vocal advocate for ethical leadership, sharing lessons learned from our journey at conferences and seminars. Watching him evolve, from the man who had fired me to a champion of change, filled me with a complex mix of pride and forgiveness. And then came the moment I hadn't dared to dream of, recognition. Not the superficial kind tied to titles or accolades, but genuine acknowledgement of my contributions. Awards rolled in, not just for Elysium's technical achievements, but for its broader societal impact. Speeches, interviews, keynote addresses, they all provided platforms to amplify the message that technology should serve humanity, not exploit it. But perhaps the most meaningful validation came in quieter moments. A young girl reaching out to thank me for inspiring her to pursue coding. A teacher describing how Elysium had transformed his classroom. A refugee entrepreneur using the platform to launch a business that supported her community. These stories reminded me why I had started coding in the first place, to make a difference, no matter how small. In the end, Elysium didn't just change the world, it changed me. It taught me resilience in the face of adversity, courage in the pursuit of truth, and the power of collaboration over competition. It showed me that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of the journey. And it proved that even in the darkest moments, hope can light the way forward. Standing on stage at the annual Tech for Good conference, surrounded by faces reflecting diverse backgrounds and boundless potential, I realized something profound. Elysium wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who believed in its vision, who contributed to its growth, who carried its spirit into the future. As applause filled the auditorium, I glanced toward the back of the room, where Richard sat watching with quiet pride. Our eyes met, and for the first time in years, there was no bitterness between us, only gratitude for the journey we had shared and the possibilities still ahead. The road wouldn't always be easy. Challenges would arise, setbacks would occur, and sacrifices would need to be made. But standing there, bathed in the glow of collective achievement, I knew one thing for certain: whatever happened next, Elysium had already changed everything, and its story was far from over.